Welcome back. I love story time. I hope you do too. Today we're going to be hearing from Sandra Rose Simmons. She's going to be reading a little bit from her novel Moonglow for us today. Thank you so much, Sandra, for joining us. I'm so grateful to meet you. Thank you.
Good to meet you.
You're
Learn a
coming
little bit about you and what you do.
you're coming to us all the way from Arizona today, right?
Correct.
I'm so glad I got that right.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this opportunity to meet so many great authors from all over the world. Zoom has really opened up the opportunity for us to do that. So thank you for being willing to come and share your story with us today.
I'm happy to be here.
Sandra Rose Simmons' debut novel, Moonglow, was published in 2016. Her short story, The Hobo Shack, won the 2017 Tempe Community Writing Contest for adult fiction and is featured in Tempe Writers Forum Volume 3. A former teacher, social worker, administrator, and consultant, Sandra is inspired by people and their struggles to not only survive, but thrive and find meaning in life. Her stories reflect her interests in nature, travel, hiking, dancing, and spirituality. Family and friendships have played a major role in her life and helped her maintain balance and perspective as she navigated the difficulties of being a working single mother and caregiver to her elderly parents and life partner. She is a member of Sisters in Crime, Desert Sleuths chapter, Mesa Writers Guild, Society of Southwest Authors, and Always. Can you educate me who is Always?
Oh gosh, it's an acronym.
Okay, for another writing group?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Uh,
awesome, awesome. Okay, well, I will look that up on Google when we are
Something
done
about
today.
literary scribes, and I don't know. I can't remember right now.
That's fantastic. I'll look it up. Today, you are going to be reading from Moonglow, which is contemporary fiction, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to read the back matter synopsis just to give everybody an idea about the book. Sarah Flanagan has made great progress. After 8 years of working in a Chicago bank, she has risen to assistant branch manager, and now a promotion to run her own branch brings with it a move to the suburbs, a new condo, and a new life. She has scarcely gotten settled when the trouble starts. Someone in the branch, possibly with an accomplice, has pillaged the bank's cash, and top management has ordered an investigation, even though Sarah is right in the middle of finding and fixing the problem. Could a recent system change at her branch, initiated by the assistant manager, have created an opportunity for theft? Would a past affair with her former boss have a negative impact on her reputation and professional advancement, or even threaten to end her career? Meanwhile, significant changes in her personal life add to her stress and anxiety. Concern about the health and safety of her aging parents mixed with guilt that they want more of her time than she can give. On top of that, she has just begun to make new friends and social connections, including a new man, Warren, whom she finds irresistibly attractive. Uncertainty clouds every aspect of Sarah's life, at times leaving her almost beyond the ability to cope. Her days and nights are marked by worry and fear, relieved only by brief intervals of joy and emotional release. Her challenge is to find the way through and out to achieving the happy, meaningful life she's always wanted. What a great storyline this is. I'm so excited to hear this story. Sandra, when you are ready, please take the microphone and read aloud.
Okay, I'm ready.
Great.
Chapter 1. As she peered out the train window at the moonlit landscape, Sarah Flanagan's eyes would occasionally refocus on the window itself, and she'd glimpse her own image superimposed on the eerie scene like a ghost in the clouds hovering over fields of corn and beans. None of the farms she passed could rival her parents' place, which always remained in her heart, even though her life was in the big city. She could hardly wait to see the farm, her childhood home. She pictured her parents standing arm in arm at the station, waiting for her. But as much as she loved them, she knew she could not return to live there. She thought, I hope they don't want to get into that after all this time. I just need a few days of rest. Life in the city could be very demanding and competitive, but Sarah had always been a competitor. Working long hours at the bank in downtown Chicago had yielded its rewards. In only 8 years, she'd become an assistant branch manager. Recently, another branch in Highland Park had posted an opening for a manager and she'd put in for the job. It would mean more money, of course, but it would also give her a chance to prove she could handle senior management responsibilities. Some people thought the only reason she was promoted was because of Rob, her current boss. She and Rob had been romantically involved several years ago after his divorce, when she was a loan officer. Sarah remembered being flattered by the attentions of the handsome assistant manager. Rob had never paid her much attention until after his divorce. Then he'd swagger into her cubicle and flop down to tell her some story that would make her laugh. He invited her to happy hour one night, and thinking it was a group event, she accepted. Finding him alone in the bar, her heart raced and her palms became damp. He escorted her to a cozy booth and scooted in close beside her. To calm her nerves, she drank a little too much and ended up laughing until tears flowed from her eyes. When he walked her out, he held her close and kissed her on the forehead before seeing her home. They began dating after that. He always showed her a good time, taking her places in the city she might never have found on her own. She enjoyed his wit, intelligence, and style. Suddenly, she felt like a woman of the world. All of her senses were alive. Then everything changed. He became distant and frequently unavailable. She felt abandoned and hurt when they split up. Several months later, he was promoted to branch manager. When he promoted her from loan officer to assistant manager, people talked. Angry and embarrassed at the gossip and innuendo, she had worked hard to earn her colleagues' respect and cooperation. Looking back now, she realized she'd learned a lot from Rob, and she'd had to pay for it by having to prove she had earned her promotion because of her skills in the office, not the bedroom. Now it was time to move on. Coming back to the present, Sarah again noticed her ghost self on the inner surface of the train's window. Startled, she looked into the reflection of her dark eyes and couldn't help seeing how sad they appeared. She thought, am I really doing the right thing? A move to the suburbs would uproot her whole life. She loved her little apartment downtown. She could walk to the Y or to Charlie's for happy hour. The theater, museums, grand old movie houses, they were all just a short distance from her apartment, and they become the hub of her existence. In the suburbs, though, everything was so spread out and bland, it didn't even have the charm of the country. She wondered if the price was really worth it. Maybe this time away from it all will help me sort it out. Sarah napped in the hammock as it swayed in the shade of the old oak tree that had been growing in the front yard of the farmhouse since before she was born. The pages of her journal fluttered in the warm breeze of a late summer afternoon. The fragrance of rose blossoms hung in the air, as sedating as if they were poppies. Crickets chirped intermittently, and somewhere in the distance a tractor plowed a field, its engine straining as the tiller clattered and clanked over the hard ground. Later that evening, Sarah gazed out the kitchen window as she finished cleaning up the supper dishes. She stared at the moonlit yard, the barn, the fields, but without really seeing them. Her mind was on Chicago and the job she'd temporarily escaped. She resented this momentary, involuntary, and unwelcome mental intrusion on her vacation. The last few days here at her family home made her aware of how really tired and weary she had become. Her mother interrupted Sarah's reverie by coming into the kitchen. Are you almost done, dear? You know, I wish you would let me do that. Sarah smiled. It's okay, Mom. I don't mind helping out. I can't just lie around all day. Even as she spoke, it occurred to her that just that afternoon she had felt she could spend the rest of her life lying in the hammock. We're holding the game for you, so hurry on along. Sarah sighed. Another night, another game. She didn't really care. It kept her mind occupied. She had always enjoyed playing games, but tonight she wished for something else. A walk to the pond, a concert at the gazebo, some kind of escape from the watchful concern on her parents' faces. She sighed again and tried to see the full moon from the kitchen window. Its silvery glow shimmered on the dew-covered grass in the backyard, but the moon itself was hiding its face behind the tall trees bordering the house. Maybe she could just step out on the porch for some fresh air. Sarah, her father walked up beside her. Hi, honey. Not fixin' to howl at the moon now, are you? Oh, Daddy. What? And start all the dogs in the county to barking? No, I was just taking it in. You know, it looks so much bigger and brighter here than it does in the city. Well, a lot of things are better here than they are in the city. I know, but that's where my life is now. Your mother and I would sure like to have you closer to home. I know, Daddy. It's been so nice being here. She took another look at the moon, and as if to imprint the image on her memory and pack it away like the clothing and jewelry neatly tucked in her suitcase on the bed upstairs. She smiled at her dad and put her arm in his. Together they came into the house to find her mother busily playing solitaire. Okay, now, let's see who's going to get the Queen of Spades. Her father sank his heavy frame into the armchair. All right, then. Her mother scooped up the cards and began to shuffle. At the end of the evening, Sarah went to her room. There on the walls was her high school graduation picture, a collage of photos in various stages of her younger years, and her college diploma in a tidy black frame. It all seemed so long ago. She had been full of energy and dreams about her future. She couldn't wait to leave the country and begin an exciting life in the city. And it had been exciting, but it wasn't exactly what she had imagined. Now she was making another change. She hoped her new life would live up to her expectations. Maybe she would have more time to relax, make new friends, read the books she loved so much. She opened the dresser drawer and began packing her bag. She scooped up her underwear and noticed a shiny blue folder in the bottom of the drawer. Oh my God, it's my dream book. She used to enter all the things she thought were most important, all the things she hoped to achieve. This had been the original blueprint for her life. She sat on the bed and hugged it to her chest. As she read through the entries, she was surprised at the wisdom of her teenage self. There was her treasure map, a handsome man smiling at a beautiful woman, a shiny red Miata convertible, a group of women walking arm in arm on the beach, jewelry and flowers, books, music, and theater marquee, a sailboat with the Chicago skyline in the background. She was amazed at how many of these things had been part of her experience the past few years, but even more, she was aware of what was missing. What had happened to my friends? It had been months that she'd been out with anyone. She'd put all of her energy into her work. And the handsome man? This time she hoped she had the sense to find someone who really cared for her, someone she could trust and respect, someone she could introduce to her parents. This was just the inspiration she needed to remind her of who she had become, and that she must create a new map of what is most important in the world right now. She tucked the folder into the bag and tucked herself into bed. Starting over in the suburbs had consumed every minute of Sarah's days for the past 2 months. Excuse me. She found a modern condo with a garage near Lake Michigan and the park. She could ride her bike to work in good weather. In the meantime, unopened boxes filled a spare room and lined the hall. Every time she needed something, a pencil or a hammer, she had to dig through some box. And even though she'd labeled the boxes, she always found what she needed in the last place she looked. For the first couple of weeks on the new job, Sarah came home tired and overwhelmed. Every bank branch had the same protocols, but each had its own internal systems and way of doing things. Her staff seemed to be understanding and eager to help her learn her way around. She'd met with all the loan officers to hear their issues and concerns. They had weathered the foreclosure crisis fairly well. They processed more car loans now, and applications for home loans had started to come in again. She had to focus primarily on making sure the branch would have a balanced portfolio of business and a positive return on investment as the economy picked up. To achieve that goal, she wanted to emphasize the importance of customer service. She planned to meet with the frontline staff soon to discuss accuracy and responsiveness in handling their transactions. On the horizon, she'd have to weigh staffing needs against declining use of the branch in favor of the rapidly increasing number of online banking options. Cynthia, her administrative assistant, asked how she was settling in. And Sarah responded, I'm having trouble getting my bearings here. In the city, I have my favorite shops and activities, but here I don't know my way around. Cynthia had lots of tips and suggestions. Here's a copy of the local paper. On Wednesday, they do restaurant reviews, and on Thursday, they list community events. She recommended a local farmer's market near the park, as well as a Costco warehouse only a few miles away. The following Thursday evening, Sarah attended one of the free concerts in the park she had circled on the community calendar in the newspaper. She enjoyed watching children chase each other around the bandstand and roll down the grassy hill that formed a natural amphitheater. Old folks brought their folding chairs and draped blankets over their knees to ward off the chill of the evening. People seemed to arrive in pairs, hand in hand, but even in the midst of all the joy and laughter surrounding her, loneliness grabbed Sarah's heart with its icy fingers, and she shivered. Pulling her sweater more snugly around her, she wished she had a hand to hold or an arm around her to shelter her from the damp air. On Saturday, she headed for the lakeshore running path. Hundreds of boats filled the harbor, and a few sailboats floated elegantly across the lake. Couples occupied the benches lining the path, feeding birds that scattered as she ran past, only to flutter to the ground again as soon as she was gone. To be as free as a bird, to fly away over the lake and perch in the trees to take in the view, she thought. By the end of the second month of her relocation, the list of chores occupying her thoughts and her mind had diminished to become just the normal routines necessary to maintain her life. Her isolation snuck up on her one Sunday morning as she sipped her tea on the small patio outside her kitchen. She had nowhere to go, nothing to do, and no one to do it with. If she were in the city, she'd get on the train and take in a museum, meet a friend for lunch, see a movie. An enormous wave of loneliness washed over her, and her shoulders slumped. She felt overcome by doubt and saw her high hopes for her new beginning slipping away. Shaking off the ennui, she pulled up her contacts on her iPhone and searched for someone who might offer an opportunity for companionship. No one was anywhere nearby, and no one even picked up the phone to have a chat. She turned to the Meetup website, to see what online activities they offered. She checked on groups interested in running, hiking, and the arts. Almost all of the listed events had already happened or were filled to capacity. Frustrated with her lack of success, she logged on to Facebook to see what was going on with her friends. She scrolled through various political diatribes, inspirational messages, and recipes for tantalizing dishes, occasionally finding a personal note or photo. A high school friend's photo of her birthday party at Pizza Palace brought back memories from the many times she and her friends had gathered there. A few clicks later, she enjoyed a good laugh watching a funny video of a former colleague's pet cat. Then she came to the end of the news feed. She logged off the computer and switched on the television in a final, dispiriting attempt to find something significant to distract her from the isolation she felt. As the next business week started, the first item on Sarah's agenda was a regional meeting of branch managers in the city. Her favorite dress and snappy new sandals boosted her confidence as she anticipated her first encounter with her new colleagues. She even looked forward to seeing Rob. At least he would be a familiar face. Sarah entered the auditorium just as the meeting began, and scanning the audience, spotted Rob across the room, where he was conversing with a couple of men. Once underway, the agenda was long, filled with updates on the bank's financial and regulatory proposals aimed at reform. Market analysts predicted promising economic conditions. During one of the short breaks in the meeting, Sarah introduced herself to Marcia, a new branch manager in Cicero. At the lunch break, they made their way to the buffet line together, comparing notes on their new jobs and the challenges of relocation. Marcia had moved from Southern Illinois with her family and felt lucky to be selected for her job. It's a bit of a trek from Chicago Heights, where my husband is working. We found a place in Oak Lawn, and my commute is only about 40 minutes. The kids are in a good school district, and that's the important thing. Sarah could only imagine how much more complicated it would be to start over with a family, and yet, in a way, she envied Marcia. At least her new friend was not alone. Rob walked up as Marcia and Sarah sat down to lunch. "Hi, good to see you, Sarah. Mind if I join you?" "Rob, hi. This is Marcia. She's at the Cicero branch." Rob nodded as he slipped into a chair next to Sarah. Nice to meet you, Marcia. So, Sarah, how's it going in Highland Park? Great, I've got a good team, and they've done a terrific job of keeping ahead of the curve. Don't you miss the city? Sometimes, but the burbs have their charms. I can bike to work and run along the lake shore. I'd never feel comfortable doing that in the city, or even in Oaklawn, Marcia interjected. Are you sure it's safe? Sarah has always been a plucky one, Rob noted. The afternoon sessions were organized by topic. Sarah chose electronic banking, wanting to be up on the leading edge. She was surprised to find only 10 other managers assembled in a small meeting room with computers on each table. Jason Whitehead gave an overview of the trends in online banking, and Jenny Wong demonstrated various online products, giving the managers an opportunity to try them out. She found the session interesting and exciting because for the first time it occurred to her that online banking offered her abundant opportunities and a possible career path in the future. When the session ended, she stepped out into the reception area. She saw Rob coming out of another room. They made eye contact, and he walked toward her, saying, "How about some dinner before you head out to the boonies?" he asked. "I'd like that. Where shall we go?" "You pick. You must be missing some uptown choices." "Let's go to HB. I love that place." "You got it." Rob insisted on driving to the restaurant. As soon as they placed their orders, he smiled and said, "I've missed you." Sarah returned his smile, not knowing what to say. She couldn't help thinking, is he trying to come on to me after all this time? A few moments later, she got her answer. "Now that we're colleagues instead of co-workers, maybe we should give it another go." "Rob, I don't know what to say. I'm just getting settled and—" "I know," he interrupted. "It's not geographically convenient anymore, but maybe that's a good thing. It was too easy before, and we were together all the time. Look, I'm nearly not ready for romance, but I would sure like a friend. I've always appreciated your sense of humor and good advice. It'd be nice to go for a run if you think you can handle leaving the city for the burbs once in a while. I guess I could make that sacrifice if it means spending time with you." Over dinner, they shared information and insights from the regional meeting. Sarah said, "I'm really excited about electronic banking." It'll never be more than a small percentage of the business," Rob cautioned. Though she had always trusted Rob's guidance and advice, she felt he was wrong about the future of the industry. She kept her opinion to herself. As they left the restaurant, Rob pulled her close for a hug goodbye. "I'll give you a call." "Great," she said, pulling away and headed toward her car. As she drove home, Sarah wondered if her loneliness had moved her to open the door to starting over with Rob. She knew he wanted more than friendship, and she knew better than to trust him with her heart. "No way I'm going down that road again. Even if we're not in the same office anymore, the gossip mill knows no boundaries. I need to find another way to meet people." During the following week, Sarah put aside her hesitation and began a concerted effort to reach out and connect. She started with a website for the Presbyterian church she had attended with her mother and found a listing for a singles group with a phone number for Amy. "What luck, someone I know. No matter what happens this week, I will try out the singles group on Friday." Another opportunity for connecting and meeting people. While Sarah anticipated these new developments, Ben, the assistant manager, stepped into her office on Thursday and closed the door. Before she could acknowledge his presence, he blurted out, "Perry, one of the tellers, was caught siphoning money from the cash drawer. It looks like maybe $10,000 in all." Sarah rolled her eyes. "How long has this been going on?" "From what we can tell, he's been at it for about 6 months. He only came to work here a year ago from a branch in Indiana." "Damn, that's a lot to recover. Have you talked to him yet?" "Not yet. I just found out about it from the auditors. I wanted to let you know before I call Human Resources. The protocol is to suspend him immediately and conduct a thorough investigation. It could take as much as 4 weeks to complete that, depending on what else they have on their plate. Thanks for the update. I want to stay on top of this situation and meet the Human Resources representative before she talks to Perry." When Ben left, Sarah scowled and slammed her legal pad on the desk. "Just when I thought things were going well." In spite of the situation, Sarah noted Ben's professionalism as well as how attractive and personable he was. Unlike Rob, he seemed closer to her age. "I must be out of my mind to even give him a thought. I'm not making that mistake again." She stood and walked around the desk, shaking her head. "I have more importance to think about than romance." She pulled out the procedure manual, let it falling on the desk with a thud. She found the section on fraud and forced herself to focus on the specific steps Ben had briefly outlined. She remembered a similar situation at her old branch. As assistant manager, Rob had discovered the problem after 2 years, and $50,000 were gone. There had been a lot of negative publicity, and he had nearly lost his job. She didn't remember all the details, but she didn't want that to happen to her. Poring over the manual, she took note of every step in the process. I'd really like to get through this on my own, but Rob might have some good advice. Reaching out to him that night might come with some strings, and she worried it would cost her. That evening, reluctantly, she phoned Rod at home. When he did not pick up by the fourth ring, she nearly lost her nerve and hung up. Then she heard his voice. Hello, Sarah. Glad you called. I was going to call you before the official announcement goes out. You're talking to the new corporate VP for business development. Wow, congratulations, but I'm not surprised. Let's celebrate. I'll take you out on the town. That would be great, she said, making an effort at enthusiasm. Damn, bad timing. She chewed on her pen as she considered her options. I can't tell him about my problem now. Maybe I can get his help at dinner. Wonderful. Take the train in Saturday and I'll pick you up at the station at 6. Wear that sexy red number I love. We'll do it up in style. I'll see you then. Let's see. Monday morning, more than a half hour before 9 o'clock opening time, 2 representatives of corporate security showed up. I didn't know they were coming, Rob told Sarah nervously. We let Perry go last Friday, but we haven't told the rest of the staff what's going on. What'll they think? Not much we can do about that right now. Let's see what they have to say. After Ben had escorted the 2 security men to the conference room, Sarah joined them and closed the Venetian blinds on the window that looked out to the public space. She squared her shoulders as she greeted the security team and introduced herself and Ben. They looked like retired cops, only better dressed. One had a military buzz cut, and his open jacket didn't hide his expansive gut. The other one was tall, with silver hair and deep lines etched into his tanned face. The man with the buzz cut stepped forward. I'm Officer Davison, and this is Nickleby. We're here to investigate the investment situation, as I'm sure you know. Yes, of course. How can we help? We'll need to look at all your cash box entries and video documentation, and we'll want to talk to the staff. We haven't informed them yet that there's a problem. We can help you with that. The sooner the better. And we'll need some workspace. This room will do, unless you have another option. All right, we'll make this room available to you. We could get the staff together now before we open for business. Will 30 minutes be adequate? That's fine. Ben asked the staff to gather in the lobby. Returning to the officers, Sarah informed the visitors that not all the employees were present. A part-time teller will be in this afternoon, and one on vacation will be back next week. How do you want us to handle that? You can bring them in to see us when they get here. Okay, I'll go talk to the staff now, she replied. Walking into the lobby, Sarah could see the anxiety on everyone's faces. No question, everyone was aware that these visitors were from headquarters. Perspiration dampened her forehead. She faced them. Before she said a word, someone asked, Are you going to tell us we're being downsized again? No, nothing like that. We've had some cash missing, and Officer Davidson and Nickleby are here to investigate. I want you to cooperate fully and answer all their questions honestly. I know that this will cause some stress and disruption to your normal routines, but I also know we can count on you to continue providing great customer service you always do. After the last of the staffers went to their workstations, Sarah returned to the conference room with the investigators, who were already poring over folders filled with various bank documentation. Is there anything else you need right now? Officer Davidson asked her to take a seat. We understand you're new to this branch. We'll be working closely with Ben since he's responsible for the day-to-day operation of the cash drawers and supervision of the tellers. We may need to consult with you from time to time as well. I'm the branch manager, and I want to be informed of your progress with the investigation. I'll help get this cleared up any way I can. At the Chicago branch, you were an assistant manager, correct? Yes, for 2 years before coming here. Were there any irregularities or losses at the branch during the time you worked there? Sarah shifted in her chair and clenched her hands together. When I was a loan officer, $50,000 were lost to embezzlement, and an investigation was conducted. Were you implicated in any way? No, she heard her voice rise defensively and took a deep breath. Were you aware of the situation in the investigation? Of course, everyone in the branch was questioned. Wasn't your boyfriend the assistant manager under suspicion? Rob Collins is not my boyfriend, and he was cleared of any involvement. She swallowed hard and tried to control her voice to hide her increasing agitation. Were you aware of anything that might have led the investigators to believe he was responsible in any way? Look, I don't know what you're implying, but he didn't do anything wrong. In fact, he's just been promoted to the vice president of business development in the New York office. Fed up with their insinuations, she stood to leave. Nickleby spoke up. We're not accusing you of anything, just doing our jobs. We have to ask a lot of questions and look at all the possibilities. Given your short-term tenure here, it's highly unlikely that you had anything to do with this. Davidson added, that's all for now. We'll let you know if we have any further questions. Sarah nodded curtly and left, flushed with anger and wondering if she had anything to worry about. She resented their rudeness and the implication that the fact she was new here was all that kept her from suspicion. From her window onto the bank operations, Sarah could see that working under the watchful eye of corporate security had everyone on edge. The time required to close the cash doors doubled. Everyone was being extra careful to make sure they balanced out. Ben nervously hovered over everyone, adding to the tension. In the meantime, the officers pored over boxes of data in the conference room. Frequently, they had Ben come in and question him. When he left the room, a frown generally furrowed his forehead and his shoulders slumped. Following Rob's advice, Sarah dialed the number he had given her for Teresa in risk management and left a message. At the end of the week, her call had still not been returned. She asked Ben to come into her office. Close the door and give me an update on what's happening with the investigation. It seems really tense out there on the floor. They're being ridiculous and driving me crazy. They don't understand our system. I have to explain every detail. I see, Sarah raised her eyebrows. I'm sure they've reviewed this kind of documentation before. Why are they having such a hard time with ours? I made some improvements to be more efficient. I even got a commendation from the Save Time, Save Dimes project. That's interesting. I'd like to know more about the changes you made. I'll expect you to go over it with me on Monday. For now, do the best you can to answer their questions and give them what they need. The sooner this is over, the sooner we get back to normal.
Well done. Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Yeah, it was fun to write. It's like a walk down memory lane because I grew up in Illinois, near where her parents lived, not in the city, but I was familiar with the city, and it was a fun story to write.
What was your favorite part about writing the story?
All the twists and turns that she had to go through to, navigate her life, and all the different aspects of life that I could bring to play in the story. With the professional part and the relationship part, and she's worried about her aging parents, and I had aging parents, so I could relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
And
so how much of you is in Sarah?
Well, I never worked in a bank, but but I like the hiking and she gets into dancing, which that was fun to write. I got to write about my favorite contra dance community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so great. I am looking forward to reading your book. Thank you so much for introducing us to it.
You bet. It was fun to do.
I hope that when your next book comes out, you'll come back and read for us again.
You bet.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You bet. You too.